What's up? What's up? Happy Friday, everybody. We are doing a live stream about Carbon Diet Coach. Your questions about the app, about nutrition. Happy to be on here on Friday answering your guys' questions. If you guys do have questions, the best place to put them is in the, if you're on Facebook, YouTube, put them in the comments. If you're on Instagram, put them in the ask the question, and then I can pull it up on the screen so that everybody can see it. But this is our normal Friday live stream. We do these every single Friday between Lane, Holly, and I. We jump on here, answer your guys' questions about the app, where you're struggling. And yeah, so we can get started when there are a few questions here. But how's everybody doing? Where's everybody from? We got quite a few people. We got 32 people in here on Insta, Facebook, YouTube. Let's see. We got 5 people there. Do I just download the app to get started? Yeah, you need to download the app from either the iOS App Store or the Android Google Play Store, and it is a subscription, so there isn't a free portion to the app. So when you download, you'll be asked to create an account, and then it will ask you to subscribe right away. But yeah, that's how you get started with Carbon. Miami, nice. Let's see, Tampa, cool. I've been asking about one query that is it possible to get muscle mass over 40? Absolutely. Yeah, you can build muscle after 40. 40 is pretty young. Like people used to think 40 was like an old age, but I've seen so many 40-year-olds do some pretty amazing things in terms of their physique and fitness. So 40 is definitely not old by any means. And let's see, it's probably going to get annoying that my finger keeps crossing the Facebook, YouTube for these Insta comments. So I'm going to move this over. Anchorage, nice. LA. All right. If you keep on maintenance while increasing volume on lifts, would you slowly lean out? Probably not. No. What's the price of Carbon? So it is $9.99 per month, and if you can commit to a subscription of 6 months, you're going to get a discount, and then you get a further discount if you commit to the subscription for a year. So if you're on a yearly renewal basis, you're going to get the best deal. So if you have goals, pretty big goals, or if you see yourself sticking with Carbon for a while, the yearly option is going to be the most cost effective in the long run. All right. Okay, let's see. Got some coming here. All right. So Instagram, quick summary of what the app does. So for those not familiar with what Carbon Diet Coach is and what it does, it's basically a nutrition coach in your pocket. So anything that a typical like macro coach would do, Carbon does it in terms of setting you up with a diet plan in terms of macros, so protein, carbs, and fats. And then what it does is it evaluates your progress on a weekly basis and determines what needs to be changed to your macros to get the desired outcome of your goal. So you'll create a goal with Carbon, and then it'll get you started with certain macro targets that you need to hit. And then we have a built-in food tracker in the app, so you can track your diet, scan foods, and that kind of thing, and keep a diary of your foods. And then each week you're going to check into the coach, and the coach is going to look at, it's going to ask you, did you follow the plan? If you followed the plan, it's going to look at your progress that you made and what your goal of progress was, and then it'll compare, how far off were you, and then it'll make the necessary adjustments to your diet so that you can progress at the rate that you want. And the awesome thing about it is it kind of gets more accurate over time. It adapts to you, so it finds exactly where you need to be eating to make progress. And that's one of the main differences between all the other kind of apps out there like MyFitnessPal or those other ones, where they're focused on basically being a food tracker and giving you just like a one-time nutrition calculation when you start. With Carbon, you get a food tracker, you get the one-time kind of initial calculation, but then you get weekly adjustments, which is where the magic really comes in. That's what any good coach is going to do. They're going to adjust your diet to get the desired outcomes. So with Carbon, it does that for you, and it's all for $9.99 a month. So pretty good deal in my opinion. 10 to 20 times probably cheaper than what you would pay somebody to adjust your macros for you. So it's really a cost-effective way to do that. So great question. It doesn't give you meal plans. So if you're looking for meal plans, Carbon isn't for you. We try to teach you the macronutrients and why those are important, and you will be able to build your own meal plan once you have the knowledge of what foods contain protein, what foods contain carbs and fats. A meal plan can be good to get somebody started, but like after a week or two, you're probably going to be like, I need to adjust this meal plan, and then you don't even know how to do it. So that's why learning macronutrients, tracking your diet is going to be a long-term skill that can benefit you more than us just giving you a meal plan. And then in terms of exercise, we don't provide any workouts or workout programs or anything like that. So that is something you would have to find another service for. But we're really honed in on the nutrition thing. And one question that might come to your mind when I say that there's no really exercise component in Carbon is how does it know what my activity level is? How does it know what my workouts look like? Like, is it going to be personalized enough for me? And yes, it is actually. So we don't need you to tell us any of those things, because what the app is doing, it's looking at what you're taking in, and it's looking at the weight changes that are happening. And if you have those two things, and then what you want to happen to the weight changes, all you need to do is adjust the intake, and that will get you the desired outcome. So if you increase your activity, and the app is going to pick up on that because your weight is going to drop faster, and then it's going to increase the calories. So you don't have to put in all this information of your activity and that kind of stuff and weekly check-ins, because the coach is going to learn where your maintenance calories is at and where you need to be. So that's why there's none of that in the app. And it keeps it very simple, and it's a very simple process, and we try to remove all of the unnecessary stuff so that it can help you more effectively reach your goals. But that is that. But if your activity level changes like drastically week to week, the coach is going to have a little harder time picking up on that. So consistency is really the main thing that we preach. The more consistent you can be with your diet and your exercise, the better results you're going to have in the long run. So trying to be consistent is going to be a huge benefit for you. But if you have like a significant change from one week to the next, and you know that you're going to stay at a really high activity level, for example, all you need to do is recreate your goal at the new activity level, and then let the coach take over from there. So yeah, but for most situations, I wouldn't worry about it. Just keep checking into the coach, keep being consistent. It will pick up on those changes and make the right adjustments. Can I start a reverse diet from maintenance to avoid less fat gain, or is it best to just choose build? So if you're using Carbon is starting your reverse diet at maintenance, at your estimated maintenance. So that's going to be based on your weight change data and all that kind of stuff with the coach. So it is starting you out at maintenance, and by definition, maintenance isn't going to make you gain weight, so you don't have to really worry about that. And then a reverse diet setting is going to build you up from there. And so you can definitely do that with Carbon. Just create a reverse diet goal, and then if it asks you if you want a calorie boost to start, just say no, and then it'll start you at your estimated maintenance. The reason why we don't have any workout kind of stuff with Carbon is because we don't want to push a certain way of exercising or activity on people. People have a lot of different preferences on what they enjoy, and we want them to do what they enjoy for their exercise their activity, all that kind of stuff. So pushing, a workout program on somebody when they don't necessarily enjoy working out isn't going to be beneficial. So we kind of keep that out of the app. Let's see here. Basically, this person is asking, and they're not going to be very active for a few days. What should they do with the app? I wouldn't do anything different. If it's just a few days, it's not going to really make a difference. So, yeah. Cheat days. The app doesn't manage cheat days because we don't recommend doing cheat days. So that's not a concept that we think is good from a mental standpoint. If you're cheating on your diet, that's not necessarily a good thing. So what we preach is more fitting things into your diet and into your macronutrient budget. So you can look at your macro targets as a budget, and you can spend it however you like. And it's always important, if your goals are important to you and fitness is important to you, having some kind of budget in place in terms of your macros is going to be important for you to reach your goals. And so that's why, cheat days kind of can blow things out of the water and make you not make any progress. You could eat, have a ton of calories and then just basically not make any progress. So we want you to stay accountable to your macro targets. So we don't recommend that. If you do want to have, a drink or two, you can easily fit that into your weekly budget. So look at your macros as more of a weekly budget where you can spend it however you like, especially for carbs and fats. For protein, it's really important to have that daily, have the same amount each day. So I wouldn't really shift that around. But in terms of your carbs and fats, you can certainly shift those around as much as you like. And then with alcohol, you have to track it. You have to track those calories somehow. And since there is no alcohol macro on the food label, macronutrient on the food label, you need to track it somehow. We recommend tracking it by taking away either carbs and fats from your diet. So kind of counting it as a carb or a fat, those calories, and then that will account for it in your plan, and you can still make the progress that you should make and enjoy yourself by having a drink or two. So if you're looking for more information on alcohol and how to track that, visit our help center, joincarbon.com/help. There's some resources there about how to track alcohol accurately in the app. All right, let's get back to Insta. Let's see. Does the app have multiple food options? Like if someone has a particular allergy to peanuts, so how that work with the coach? So since we don't give you specific food recommendations, like you should eat these foods and give you a meal plan, it works for any diet that you have in terms of allergies or anything like that, because you're going to be eating the foods that you can eat, and you use those foods that you can eat to reach your protein, carb, and fat targets that we provide you. So it will work for any allergy that you have because you're going to be picking the foods. And in terms of like diet preferences, we do have some different diet preference settings in the app. And what they do is they basically shift around ratios of your carbs and fats mostly. There is, with vegan or the vegetarian setting, it will drop your protein a little bit to make it a little easier to hit your targets. But besides that, and keto, we do have a keto option where it will drop your protein. But besides that, the diet preference settings shift your carb and fat ratio. So we have balanced, which is what's recommended in default. It's just a nice balance between carbs and fats and protein. We have low carb, we have low fat, and then we have vegan/vegetarian, and then we have keto. So between those fit basically any kind of diet that somebody might eat in terms of ratios for protein, carbs, and fats. And we also have sliders on each of one of those diet preferences. So if you don't like the default value of those diet preferences, you can easily adjust the slider to get exactly the macros that you want. So it's a very adaptable and it's very easy to fit this into your diet preferences and your lifestyle because of these settings that we have in the app. And you might wonder, like, will having a different diet preference give me more progress than having this other one? And the answer is generally no. Each one of the diet preferences that we have in the app should produce the same results in terms of overall fat loss or weight loss. It's not going to make any difference at all in terms of that. So just pick the diet preference that you prefer. Like, that's why it's there. It's a preference, and the best thing you can do is pick one that matches closely to how you typically eat already. So you're not going to have to make a huge lifestyle change in terms of the foods you're eating, because the app is going to be more in line with your typical intake. So that's what we recommend doing. So allow adding local foods to also keep track. Yeah, absolutely. You can create custom foods in the app if they're not found in the food database. So we have a food database that covers pretty good area. So we have United States, we have Canada, we have Australia, and we have the UK. So those are the food databases that we currently support, and you'll find typically most of the branded food items in those regions. And you'll also find more of the general kind of foods anywhere. So we have the general database as well, where foods that don't typically have a food label are in there. So if you're in a country where you don't have, we're not supporting your local foods, you can always create custom foods, and it kind of builds up your own food list in the app. So you can do that for sure. Is there a way to quickly copy over all meals in one day? Yeah, you're gonna have to copy each meal individually, but it only adds 2 seconds maybe to copy the other meals. So you will have to copy each meal individually, but you can easily copy them from day to day. Is 10,000 steps light or moderate activity when initially setting a goal? It's I would say that's moderate. Yeah. Yeah. Um, oh, the help center. Oh, Cesar, the help center is. Oh, you found it. Okay. Never mind. The help center is on our website. So joincarbon.com/help. There is a link in the app to get to it. So in settings, there is a help center link where you can tap on it, and it'll take you to there. So. um, Currently working on losing weight. How do I deal with lethargy, fatigue, etc. when I come to lifting/running? So there are a few things that could be at play here. One is, initially you could be in too big of a calorie deficit, so you're trying to lose weight too quickly. If you're trying to lose weight at a quick rate, your calories are going to have to be low, and that will have a higher percentage of impact on things like lifting and running and that kind of thing. So I would first look at what rate of loss you are trying to lose weight at. Uh, Typically, I would really try to stay under 1% of your body weight per week. I think a better number is 0.8% of your body weight per week. I think that's a good goal to shoot for in terms of loss per week. That's a nice balance, between speed and also calories. So you're not going to have to take calories as low as you would if you're trying to lose weight at 1% or 1.2. That's really fast. So 0.6 to 0.8, I find that that's kind of a sweet spot for most people. So I'd look to lose that first, and then if you're still tired, fatigued, that kind of thing, look at your lifestyle as well. Like, what are you sleeping enough? How's stress? All those things are going to have a huge impact on fatigue. And if your diet is in check and your lifestyle is in check, then maybe you want to consider also looking at how you are, I guess, distributing meals throughout the day. Maybe, making sure you're having a good meal before you do any kind of lifting or running, and try to maximize that time window. So maybe eat a little bit lighter when you're not close to lifting or running, but then when you're lifting or running, maybe make sure you're having a good, pre-workout meal and then a post-workout meal or something to help. So doing some nutrient timing and experimenting with that might help. But I think by far the biggest impact is going to be not trying to lose weight too quickly. I think that's where most people screw up here, is they just try to lose weight really quickly, and then it's unsustainable. It affects all of these things, and so going more moderate with your deficit is usually the better long-term play. How long should we be in maintenance before we do a cut? You don't have to be in maintenance before you do a cut. You could start a cut at any time. Sometimes it's nice to have a maintenance break in between phases, more from like a mental standpoint, because doing a cut is going to take kind of a mindset shift. And if you were previously in a reverse or a gain phase, you're going to have a completely opposite mindset around food and how you're feeling and all that kind of stuff. And going from the end of a reverse or the end of a like weight gain phase all the way to a cut is going to be like a huge drop in your calories. So having that like kind of middle ground where you're sitting for just a few weeks to kind of recalibrate and get yourself mentally prepared for the next phase can be good, but you don't have to. Like I said, you could go from whatever to a cut, and it's still gonna do the same thing for you. You might notice more weight swings going from one extreme to the other, and that's another reason why maybe stopping at maintenance in the middle for a few weeks to let your weight stabilize, for things to get normal again, and then going on to the next phase. But yeah, so most of the time, it doesn't have to be long. You could do a week, 2 weeks maintenance, but having that little break in there mentally, I find helps me at least. Let's see. Great question so far, guys. Appreciate everybody that's on here. Is there a way to track daily macro averages in between check-ins? If you are, you can go to the me section of the app and look at the average of 7 days. So you could see what your average calories are at, what your average protein, carbs, and fats are at any point, but it would look at 7 days. If you're trying to look at less than 7 days or more than 7 days, you're going to have to, unfortunately, do that math yourself. But yeah, I would check out the me section if you haven't seen that already. Let's see. Okay, why is that an Oura ring you have? No, it's just a normal. It's like a rubber silicone wedding ring. Why is the reason when you're reaching your macros and you're not necessarily reaching your calories? Basically, never accurate with macros and calories. Yeah, that's a very common thing, and it's due to a few things. Rounding in food labels is one. Food manufacturers are allowed to round a certain amount, and then also the method that they use to determine calories is different than the method that they use to determine the macronutrient breakdown in the food. So most of the time they use a method, I believe, bomb calorimeter, where they basically just burn the food and then see how much heat is produced and use that to determine how many calories. And so it's kind of disconnected from the protein, carbs, and fat amount in the food. And so that's why there's a discrepancy there. With carbon, you can enable what we call macro calories, the macro calories feature, where what it will do is it will calculate your calories based on the macros that you're consuming. So those two numbers will always line up. And you can do that in the settings. You go to settings and then display preferences and then select macro calories. One thing you need to keep in mind when you do macro calories is that alcohol is no longer going to say it has any calories. So if you search like beer or something in the food database, you're going to see that the macro calories for that are 0. And that's because alcohol is a separate macronutrient from protein, carbs, and fats, but it's not listed on food labels, and we don't necessarily give you an alcohol target with the coach. So with macro calories, you're going to have to keep in mind that you're going to have to track alcohol differently if you want the calories to be right. So we have an article and a video on the Help Center if you want to check that out. I believe it's joincarbon.com/help/macro-calories or something like that. If you go to the Help Center and just search macro calories, you should be able to find it. And that will explain this more in detail around the food labels and as well as like the caveats with using it in the app. And so if you want calories and protein to always line up, I would definitely enable that feature. Let's see. Okay. Obese with maintenance calories. How to know when to stop your reverse diet and start weight loss phase? What's a good guide? So if you are obese and you are reverse dieting, I'm assuming that your metabolism was in a really bad place and you wanted to work on that to help improve your weight loss outcomes. And so when to stop? I wouldn't, if you're obese, I wouldn't reverse diet if you're gaining weight. So if you're gaining a significant amount of weight, like when you reverse, you're going to gain a few pounds here and there. Like it might go up and then it might come down. But overall, like if you're gaining quite a bit of weight and you're reversing, I think it's probably not a good idea to keep reversing. And so I would look for that sign of what's happening with your weight. If you're gaining too much weight, and then starting a fat loss phase, with carbon, you just switch it over to weight loss, set your goal. The app will look at what your estimated maintenance calories were before and use that to determine what you need for your weight loss phase. And so you might need to do a few, depending on how much weight you have to lose and your metabolism and all that kind of stuff. You might have to do a few dieting and then reverse dieting and then reverse dieting cycles to get you to your final goal weight. A lot of people think that they can just, one and done. They can reverse diet and then they can do a fat loss phase and then get exactly to where they want to be and everything's great. Usually it's more of like a stepwise approach where you're dieting and then you reverse for a little bit, you might gain a little bit, then you diet more, then you reverse a little bit, and then you diet and then you reverse. And by doing those cycles like that, you are keeping your metabolism more healthy and not letting it be so suppressed over the long term, and you're still losing weight. So that's really the goal, is take care of your metabolism, and it will take care of you, and you'll be able to eat more food, enjoy yourself more, lose weight on higher calories. So the more you can take care of your metabolism as you're trying to lose weight, the better. And going like the crash diet route, it's usually a bad idea because it really suppresses your metabolism over the long run and, just leads to a lot of burnout. So think sustainability, long-term approach, that should be the guiding principle in all of this, is you want to find an approach that's sustainable for the long term. Sending warm greetings from New Zealand. Thank you very much. So Lerone, despite hitting all my macros for the week, my weight is not going down as expected. Should I mark non-compliant to keep my calories the same, see if it will taper off, or just let the coach drop my calories? I would, let the coach do what the coach does. Marking non-compliant when you actually are compliant is usually not a good idea. Try to be honest with the coach. It might drop your calories now, but then you might have a great week next week, and then it'll bring your calories back up. So it's all ebb and flow. It's gonna come down a little bit when it needs to. It's gonna go up when it needs to. I would just be on this ride. Let the coach take over and just go with it. And so it shouldn't drop you like a crazy amount, because it's looking at what is your average trend over time and what's happening. So I would accept the drop and just move forward and see what happens over the coming weeks. And if you get in a place where it just keeps dropping your calories and you keep not seeing the progress that you want, that's kind of a warning sign that maybe trying to lose weight isn't the best thing right now. Maybe your activity level is too low, and that's causing your calories to be too low, and it's not sustainable. And you're having more licks, bites, and tastes here and there because you just loosen up a little bit because of the stress around it all. So yeah, it's going to be something where you need to just be in it for the long haul and trust the coach. The app does not provide exercise. No. I just answered the calories macro thing. If you hit calorie and protein targets, would you consider that compliant? Fat and carb macros are perfect. Yeah, I would. Calories and protein, is really the majority of what's most important. Carbs and fat ratios really don't have much of an impact at all on long run progress. What you will notice though, if your carbs and fats are kind of shifting and jumping all over the place, like in terms of the ratio between the two, so you will notice more weight fluctuations because with carbs store glycogen. You're going to help you store glycogen, and glycogen pulls water. So when you eat more of a higher carb diet, you're going to be retaining a little more water with that glycogen in your muscle, and so your weight is going to be higher. And then if you have really low carb, you're going to lose some of that water weight, and so it's going to be more volatile. It's going to be jumping around a lot more. So that's another reason why we kind of preach consistency and how important that is, because if your ratio is jumping around a lot, the scale is going to be jumping around a lot, and it's going to be harder to pick up on actual true changes. And so that's why we preach consistency in whatever you're doing. The more consistent you can be, usually the better outcome you're going to get. So trying to maybe go all macros, hitting all macros is going to be a better long-term kind of thing for you, but doing carbs or calories and protein is really no problem. Saying that you're compliant with that, as long as you're getting the progress that you want. And if you're noticing, hey, I'm doing calories and protein and I'm not getting the progress that I want, then I would take it up a notch and do all macros. Making sure you're getting your protein, carbs, and fats, and then seeing what happens. And so, yeah, that's what I would recommend. How much weight does creatine add? That's very hard to give an answer to, because it depends on how much you're taking. It depends on how much muscle mass you have. It depends on how high your creatine stores are naturally in your muscles. So that depends on your meat intake. If you're a vegetarian, typically you'll have lower initial creatine stores in your muscle, and then supplementing creatine would have a bigger effect for somebody that's vegetarian versus somebody that is not vegetarian. So it is impossible for me to say how much weight creatine adds, but it usually, for most people, it will add some weight, and so be cognizant of that. Expect some weight gain, be okay with it, because if you're taking it, it's basically just putting more water inside of your muscles. That creatine is pulling water inside of your muscles cells. So it's not like you're going to be bloated in terms of like, oh, you look bloated or you look watery. Creatine is not going to do that for you or do that to you unless you have like a serious GI issue that you get from taking creatine. But for most people, it's not going to make them look anything like that. It's actually probably make you look leaner because creatine will help you fill out your muscles a little bit more, and it'll help you make better muscle gain because you're going to be able to lift heavier, lift more weight, and be more explosive. So, over the long run, creatine will help you look uh, most likely better if your goal is to add muscle mass. Uh, carbon diet, carbon diet coach. What does the carbon diet consist? Um, Basically, we're a flexible dieting app, and so we provide protein, carb, and fat targets for you, and then adjust those based on the progress that you're making every single week to ensure that you continue making the progress that you said that you want to make. So it's pretty adaptable, and you check into the app each week, and it looks at your progress. It adjusts your macros, then you follow those macros, and then it evaluates your progress, and it keeps going, as long as you want. So it's very adaptive in that. How's it different than other apps? Well, most apps out there in terms of diet and fitness are really just tracker focused. So they're basically just a food tracker that gives you like an initial calorie starting place, and so that's where we really differentiate ourselves. Is we're providing macronutrient targets for you, and then we're adjusting those each week based on how you progress. So it's it actually learns you over time. It gets better, it gets more accurate. Whereas MyFitnessPal, for example, might start you out at 1,200 calories or whatever, and you're not making progress. Oh well, MyFitnessPal doesn't care, because they don't adjust those to make sure that you're making the progress that you want. So our app is more dynamic in that sense, and so that's the main differentiator. But we get compared to MyFitnessPal a lot, and there are a lot of similarities. We have a food tracker in our app. That MyFitnessPal is basically a food tracker. Um, Mostly all of the features that MyFitnessPal has, we have in Carbon as well, but we have that coaching aspect where you check into the coach in our app, and it looks at your progress each week, adjusts your macros, and so it's better from a long-term perspective than the other apps, in my opinion. um, let's see. Heather, this information is not enough for me to really say. I mean, you might have been on a fat loss setting and had an aggressive loss, and so your calories needed to be 1,100 to 1,500, and then jumping to 2,000. It just it depends on what your weight changes were when you were eating those calories. So it's really hard to say why it would jump, but it's looking at your estimated maintenance. So for some reason, it's estimating your maintenance at 2,000 calories. So if you want somebody to look into it further, I recommend reaching out to our support team. They're super helpful, and they can look at the back end data to see what exactly is happening in your scenario, because I can't give you an answer of what's happening because I can't see that information on here. So I'd recommend reaching out to support, and they should be able to help you there. All right. If you have body fat to lose, is it okay to reverse diet? Yeah, certainly. I mean, reverse dieting, the main goal of reverse dieting is to improve your metabolism. So if you have pretty suppressed metabolism and you're not able to maintain your weight on that many calories because of maybe years of yo-yo dieting or poor dieting practices, doing a reverse diet when you have some body fat to lose still is something you might need to do. It just depends on how your metabolism is at this point. Usually I try to get people to just start with whatever weight loss goal that they wanted, and then kind of prove to themselves that they need a reverse diet before just jumping automatically to reverse. A lot of times people are just inconsistent with their diet, and they don't necessarily know exactly what they've been eating. They think maybe they've been eating a certain calorie number, but if they were to actually track it and be consistent over time they might see that, hey, I'm actually eating a lot more calories than I thought I was, and that's usually the case. So that's why I say start with whatever weight loss goal you have, start with that first and kind of see what progress you're able to make when you are following the plan, you're consistent. And then if you're not making the progress that you want and your calories are getting low, then I would probably switch over to reverse. But if you're the person that, like I said, had like years of yo-yo dieting, maybe you need to reverse first, and just get that over with and then try fat loss. But most people can usually just go right to weight loss first and then reverse after the diet. So a reverse is typically a diet, but in reverse. And so usually you have to do a diet first before you would need to do a reverse diet, in most cases. Let's see. Thank you for all the hearts. Appreciate that. Are there any plans for Carbon to integrate with smart scales to automatically log weight? I would love to. I really would. I think something that we can do is we're going to likely integrate, with Apple Health and those types of more aggregate type apps. Integrating with individual like scales and specific ones like that is going to be a lot harder to do, but I could see us being able to implement, Apple Health integration, hopefully in the more short-term future, so that it makes tracking your weight a lot easier because it could just auto sync with it. So that's something I would really enjoy. And I will. I've had conversations with the dev team about it, and they know that we need to do that. But there are a few higher priority things that we want to get done first before we start doing new features. But yeah, for sure. Over Labor Day weekend, I didn't track and or put in my meals, but I kept losing weight. Should I just put non-compliant? Yeah, if you don't know what you ate, you are most likely non-compliant. So I would just put that, and then it'll keep your macros the same. Am I only compliant if my three circles are closed and their colors are correct? I guess they haven't been compliant for a long time. So the three circles are like the day kind of targets and how close you are to your daily targets. What matters most is your weekly averages. So when you're checking in, seeing your protein, carbs, and fats green on that like check-in confirm screen is gonna be the best thing to do. Because I mean, I'm not closing my circles perfectly every day either, and I think doing that, is going to be very difficult. And I would look at it more as like a weekly perspective. Weekly average intake is going to be most important, and you can always adjust. So like if you go over on one day, you can easily adjust the calorie planner to account for that. Adjust the daily targets so that it's close to there, and then that'll account for what you need to eat for the rest of the week. So if you're not eating the same things each day, I would definitely recommend checking out the calorie planner in the app so that you can adjust those things, on a weekly basis, so that you're compliant on the weekly average. So that we check in, your macros are green, and then you're compliant. Let's see. Struggling to stay within protein given by coach. Any advantages to upping protein a bit? For most people, not really. Maybe some more satiety or something. But we set protein at a pretty good level that is going to maximize really any benefits for most people. So upping it would be more of a preference thing. Like you don't have to up it, but you certainly can up it or adjust it within that range and be fine. So we kind of put those bumpers in place to where wherever you're adjusting the diet preference sliders, you're going to be within our recommendations, and you're not going to do anything that we don't recommend. So if you can adjust the diet preference sliders, I would do that so that it can match up more closely to what you enjoy eating. I signed up, but was surprised that it recommended less than 1,200 calories for my weight. I thought anything less than 1,200 calories a day was not recommended for women. That's kind of a blanket statement. I mean, it all depends on what goal you set in the app, how much you weigh. Having this arbitrary 1,200 calorie number is not true in my opinion. If you're getting low calories in the app, there's probably a few things that are happening here. Like one, you probably said that you have a slow metabolism, and when you say that you have a slow metabolism, you're going to need to eat fewer calories to make the progress that you want. So saying you have a slower metabolism only decreases your calorie targets in the app. And so usually that is one reason why you're going to get low calories, because you said you had a slow metabolism. Another reason is you could have selected a fast rate of loss. The more weight you're trying to lose each week, the bigger the deficit you need to be in. And if you're trying to lose a lot, you're going to have to eat little. It's just what it comes down to. There's no magic in terms of like, I wish I could tell you you could eat 4,000 calories a day and lose weight and this and that, but it's not going to happen. So the coach is starting you out based on what you put into the inputs, and that's why we don't put too much weight. I don't like people to put too much weight in the initial calculation that they get, because it's really the coaching, the weekly adjustments where the magic comes in. Let's say it starts you out too low to start. Within a week, 2 weeks, it's going to be dialing you in to where you need to be. Whereas like if you if you started low, give it some time. The coach is going to adjust to find exactly where you need to be eating to make the progress that you want. And so, yeah, but I wouldn't choose a fast rate of loss. That's only going to decrease your calories. Uh, Does the weekly intake calculate a week as Sunday to Saturday, or is it the start of the week, your check-in day? Depends on where you're asking. If you're looking at the me graphs, the average is going to be whatever range you have the graph set in. If you're asking about when you check in, the averages that it's showing you, those averages are going to be based on the days in this check-in period. So it's going to include your last check-in day, because that's technically day one of the week, and then all those days, and then it's not going to include the day you're checking in. So those 7 days, those past 7 days, it's going to use those and average those. And if you check in early, for example, or check in late, it's going to take however many days are in the check-in period and average those. So if you check in with just 5 days of data, it's going to take those 5 days, average them, and use those to display. So whatever you do for your check-in, it's going to average those. Okay, let's see. This week I'm going to be on vacation, so I'll be extra active. I plan on eating more. Will this screw up my calculations? So if you go on vacation and you eat more than the recommendations, I would just mark non-compliant. Then it's not going to screw up your maintenance calorie estimation. So just be accurate in what you're doing. If you are following the recommendations, say you're compliant. If you're not following them and you're on vacation, which is completely fine, just mark non-compliant when you check in, and then the coach will take over from there. So usually though, like, if you are non-compliant while you're taking a vacation, but you also have more activity, usually you don't see much, if any, weight gain, just because the activity can offset the extra calories that you're eating. But yeah, so mark compliant if you're compliant to the coach's recommendations, mark non-compliant if you are non-compliant. I think the app is brilliant. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. If you really love it, we would appreciate a good review in the app stores. So you can go to Android, the Google Play Store, or the iOS App Store and leave us a 5-star review. That would be amazing. I think we're nearing in on like 1,000 reviews on iOS, which is exciting to see us possibly pass that 1,000 review threshold, which is cool. So yeah, if you're enjoying the app, please, please, please leave us a review in the app stores. It will help us a lot. I've been a yo-yo dieter, eating between 800 to 1,000 calories per day. The app has me eating 2,400 to find maintenance. How long should I stay on maintenance to find out my accurate maintenance? It sounds like something is really wrong in in how the app is set up, Courtney. So I would reach out to support for sure. Because if you've been eating 800 to 1,000 calories a day, uh, and you've been maintaining your weight, I you should have put that in when you created the goal. It sounds like maybe you didn't put that number in, and the coach just basically calculated where it thought it was based on your weight and these other factors. So giving the coach, exactly what you're doing, exactly where your maintenance is at, is going to give you the best starting place. A lot of people don't know it, so if you don't know it, let the app calculate it, and then the coach will take over. But in your case, it sounds like you know how much you've been eating, so I would have put that in when you created a goal. Like I said, reach out to support. They can help you with figuring out exactly what's wrong with your account and help you get set up correctly. Love the app, but I feel like I've been on a calorie deficit forever. 1,250 calories. How long is too long to be in a deficit? So, if you've been in a calorie deficit forever, you're trying to lose weight forever. Like, maybe you need to not try to lose weight for some time. Take a, a phase where you take a break, eat at maintenance, or reverse diet, and focus on other things instead of always trying to lose weight. Because especially if you have a lot to lose, it can be a long time before you actually get to your final goal. So like doing more of a stepwise kind of phasic approach where you're doing some diets and then maybe a reverse diet for a little bit and then diet again, finding ways to make it a little more sustainable, I think is a good idea. How long is too long to be in a deficit? It's really independent. It's dependent on the person and how much weight they have to lose, how much how fast they're trying to lose. All those things come into play of how long is too long to be in a deficit. Usually there's like an inverse relationship on the rate at which you're losing to how long you should be in a deficit. So like if you're trying to lose weight quickly, you shouldn't be in that deficit for very long, and because it's going to have more negative effects on your metabolism. Whereas if you're losing at a slower or more moderate pace, you can be in a calorie deficit for longer and be fine. So yeah, there's like an inverse relationship that you need to keep in mind when you're trying to lose weight. Hello from France. Are macro calories really accurate? Are macro calculators really accurate? Any kind of calculator is not going to be super super accurate for all people. They're accurate for the average person. They take all of this data and then they figure out an equation that works for most people and gives the average. It's really working for the average person, but there are outliers for sure. Like there's people that they get a calorie or a macro calculator spits out numbers for them and they're way off from where they actually need to be eating, and so they're not always that accurate. And that's why with carbon, that's where the coach comes in and the weekly check-ins and the adjustments. It's going to adjust to find where you need to eat. It's going to be accurate for you. So that's why the coach is so great in carbon. Is it has that macro calculator for the initial numbers for you, but then the coach takes over and it evaluates how you're progressing each week, where your estimated maintenance is at, and then adjusts your macros so that you are making the progress that you want and they're completely tailored to you. Joel, I'm using carbon. I'm at 262. I honestly need to lose 100 pounds. Is 2 pounds lost per week good, or will I fizzle out? I think 2 pounds a week is fine. That's a lot less than 1%. So I think you're fine. 2 pounds a week is going to be completely fine. I would do it, see how you go. And you may end up if you try to lose 2 pounds a week forever indefinitely. As you get closer to your end goal weight, that's going to be really hard to do. So you're going to need to slow it down as you get closer. But right now, 2 pounds to start, I think is completely fine. I would do that until you start feeling the dieting effects, and then maybe either slow it down or consider maybe taking a little bit of a break and then starting up again with your diet. When I say take a break, I mean go to maintenance. Still track, still stay accountable to macros, but then then take another push at dieting and yeah. So it's going to be really dependent on you, but 2 pounds sounds like a good place to start. Is it okay to be aggressive? It's okay to be aggressive, I think, from the start, like to kind of kickstart things. But then over time, like I said, you're going to want to taper that back, and not be as aggressive, because the less weight you have to lose, the more dieting is going to impact how you feel and all that kind of stuff. So you're welcome. Yeah, I agree. 1 pound a week would take really long time, especially if you have 260 pounds. If you're 260 pounds, you have 100 pounds to lose. 1 pound a week is going to take a while. So yeah, start out with 2, see how it goes. Can you go over the activity? I get confused on what to pick. So if you're just starting out, the only time you need to put your activity level into the app is if you're just starting out and creating a goal. After that, you should never have to put in your activity level again, because when you change your goals, you're going to let the app use your currently estimated maintenance calories to change your goals. So, but when you're initially getting started, you will have to enter in your activity level, and each one of those has a little description on what it means. You don't need to be too crazy about it. Just read the descriptions on each one of those activity level buttons, and just pick which one sounds most like what you're doing, and then just go with it. Because like I was mentioning a little bit ago, the initial calculation is just an initial calculation. It's your macros are going to be probably completely different in a month from now. The coach is going to take over and adjust and find where you need to be. So just pick what's most representative of what your current activity is in terms of those descriptions, and go with it. You are welcome. It looks like we are nearing the end of this 1 hour live stream. If there are any more questions, maybe I'll take one more if one comes in here within the next minute or so. So if you guys have any questions that you're dying to get answered, here's your last chance on this live stream. I will say that we do these every Friday, so if your question didn't get answered, I'm sorry. We get quite a few questions on here, but we do these every Friday, so you can tune in next Friday. I believe next Friday is Lane. I believe he's doing next Friday. So it's between Lane, Holly, and I. We kind of go on a rotating schedule of lives. And so you can always get your questions answered next Friday if we missed it. When do you usually go live? So Lane and Holly don't really stick to a live schedule in terms of what time they do it, but I always do it on Fridays at 3 p.m. So 3 weeks from now is my next live stream, and it will be at 3 p.m. So 1, 2, 3. That should be the October 1st will be my next live stream, and it'll be at 3 p.m. And I try to schedule the live stream a day in advance so you can see the notification that we're going to go live the next day. So yeah. Do I need to lift weights to lose 100 pounds? You don't have to, but lifting weights has a lot of benefits in terms of muscle retention as you're dieting. So you're going to be able to lose more body fat if you are lifting weights, because your body's going to want to keep that muscle around to do those workouts. And And so you're going to lose more body fat and have a better outcome usually with fat loss. If your goal is fat loss, weightlifting is going to be a pretty important component in it. If you're just looking to lose weight, then it doesn't matter as much. But fat loss, nothing really beats weight training effectively, making sure that you have that stimulus to keep that muscle around. So I would certainly recommend weightlifting for you, Joel, if your goal is to lose body fat and improve your body composition. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. If you guys want to learn more about Carbon Diet Coach, you can always visit our website, joincarbon.com. We have a help center there as well, where you can see all of the features of the app, the common questions. You can learn about what it does. And so, yeah, if you guys want to use Carbon, you haven't used Carbon, check it out. You can download it in the iOS App Store or the Google Play Store. And you need to subscribe. So it is a subscription service, but it's only $9.99 a month. And when you compare that to what a normal macro coach would charge you, it's 10 to 20 times less than what you would pay a normal macro coach. So give it a try, just $9.99 a month. You can cancel it at any time. And so, yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend, and we will see you around.